Okay, Brother Rick, it says we are live. This is round 2 with John Camerod. If you were watching the previous video, you know that we were having technical difficulties. And the truth of it is, it's Rick's fault. I mean, we give him very few responsibilities. One of them is to check the internet connection, which he apparently did not do.
What's the internet?
So it's what we have to talk to people who live 1,000 miles away.
You mean a telephone?
No, never mind, Rick. We're going to get straight into it, but let us take care of this now. I don't even remember the lady's name that won the book. Do you remember, Rick?
Tricia K. Mendenhall Ray.
Okay, she won the D.B. Ray's Baptist Succession book. So we'll be getting in touch with her to get her the copy of that. We've got several other books that we're going to be doing a drawing for. If you share this video and comment, we've got 2 books that Brother Joey Harris has given to us. One of them is Identifying Marks of the New Testament Church. Is Christianity the only way to God? We have Baptist Baptism, co-authored by Les Potter, Matt Woody. And then we have another copy of D.B. Ray's Baptist Succession. So we're going to be giving away a set of books that you'll need to share this video, comment shared, or we won't know.
Right. If you just share it, we have no idea who it is.
Did I mention the newsletter?
I don't know.
We have our newsletter, our first edition of the Baptist Journal. We'll put a link in the ticker how to subscribe to that. Also, don't forget, like us on Facebook, follow us, go to YouTube, subscribe, hit the notification button. All right. So here's what we're going to do. Did I go over everything, Rick?
You nailed it.
I'm going to introduce again our guest today. I think we got a good connection now. So John Camerod, member of Shiloh Baptist Church in Sands, Michigan, a.k.a. Gwen, Michigan. And he is the director of Shiloh Films. We're going to get more information about that. He's been married 18 years. He has been a bondservant for 18 years now in marriage. He has 3. All your kids are girls?
One boy.
One boy. And his family helps him in the Shiloh Films ministry. So we're going to highlight that today. We have some reaction videos that we've done previously. We're not going to redo that. Maybe at the end, me and Rick might look back at some of them. But while things are working, we're going to get right into Shiloh Films. So we've got John back with us. So, John, tell us, I know you did this one time, but for those who was trying to watch it, wanted to know, we just deleted the other video. This is round 2, take 2, like in a movie, you're doing videos, take 2.
Yeah.
So we want to know about Shiloh Films. Tell us, I want to know, you talked a little bit previously about how, I remember you saying that you've always had an interest in film, and this was kind of born out of that when you got married or started dating, you moved to Michigan. Was it while you were dating or after y'all married that y'all moved to Michigan?
We lived in Michigan. I lived in lower Michigan. So up north is like its own world, right? It's not really Michigan.
Yeah. So, and that's where Brother Woody's church is at. And
right.
So you're there. Your dad's a pastor. Where's he pastor at? Pawpaw?
Pawpaw, Michigan. That's right.
Yep. So he pastored there. Yeah. Now your brother, let me get this right. Your brother's Jeff?
Yes.
And he married. So how is this all connected? This is all tied in somehow or another. I can't remember.
Well, Jeff is just, he moved up here. He lives up here with his family now, but that's about the extent of the relation. I married my pastor's daughter, or Brother Woody's daughter. I'm obviously my Brother Woody's son-in-law. And then Jeff moved up just recently. He's from Southwest Michigan as well.
Well, what?
I don't know if that's the connection you're looking to tie.
Are you and Jeff brothers?
Correct.
So who is Jeff's wife?
Her name is Danielle. She's from Texas, so she's tethered in through that. Yeah.
Okay. I'm getting it. I'm remembering now. Okay, so she was from a foreign country, and he married her and moved her up to Michigan.
Yeah. Basically. Not only just Michigan, but the most northern part of Michigan.
They call them
Texas.
Oopers? Oopers?
Youpers.
Youpers. Yeah.
Youpers, that's right.
You ever
What?
been to the Upper Peninsula?
No.
We was
I've never
up
been to
there. We
Michigan.
visited. You got to go next year. So we went up to this lake. The other side of this particular lake is Canada. What lake is that? Is that Lake
Superior.
Michigan? Lake Superior. Of course, you can't see it, but it looks like the ocean. Especially when they're getting the big, the waves, and it looks like you're standing on an ocean looking across there, and it's beautiful up there actually. That's where they're at, and so Shiloh Films comes out of Shiloh Baptist Church. So start there, and just kind of tell us a little bit about how it originated. We'll get into the specifics of some of the films that you've got, but just give us the history of it.
So just so I'll condense a little bit from the history of it is I moved up here. I had made films all my life. Films with your brothers, as most guys do. We were making films our lives. And so I moved up north shortly after my pastor that I was under at that time had told me that filmmaking, the Lord can't use filmmaking, is pretty much what he said. He said, that's your flesh. You got to put that away. And then I moved up north, and Shiloh was doing dramas, during certain times of the years. We do different programs. And so I started helping out with that and we'd put some video work together with the programs. And what culminated essentially out of that was I had a meeting, or I was talking to my father-in-law, and I just told him, I said, Lord's really been all my life. He's worked on my heart about filmmaking. I just know that's what he wanted me to do. Why is it such a pull for me? And I can envision things that could be used for the glory of the Lord through this. And this is back in early 2000s, so before YouTube. Anyway, Brother Woody, my father-in-law, he's the one that said, he basically encouraged me. He gave me the yeah, go ahead. That's exactly what God wants you to do. He can see it. And this wasn't tailored towards Baptist history just yet. At this time, it was just sort of vague. Okay, good. Now we have a direction. And then we got a hold of the book America in Crimson Red, and after hearing the story of Obadiah Holmes, the whole thing clicked. It fell into place. These are the stories I want to tell. And so that was sort of our initial mission. We made the movie As With Roses in 2008. We did that with little more than prayer, to be 100% honest. That was our greatest asset and power, was prayer, and just asking the Lord to guide us. And he did just that. And so, we didn't know how to make a movie. We sort of just started. And to be honest, As With Roses is still, it's one of our early days. So it's like your junior high pictures. You look back and you go, oh, it's got its moments there. You go, oh, we could do so much better if we did this again. But it still sells. It's still one of our biggest sellers to this day is the story of Obadiah Holmes. So
that was your first movie, right? As With Roses.
Right. Right.
And since then you've got 2 Over Mountain Men, Trial of Your Fate. You're working on a 3rd Over Mountain Men, and then a 4th movie. What was the title of the 4th movie that y'all are working on, or the second one you're working on?
Our newest movie is The Red Herring. That's one that came out in 2022. And the current one we're getting ready to launch is called A Call to New England. Okay.
And let me ask you this a little bit later on. Didn't you say there's a trailer you can watch on your website? Or how would we
So I sent you, you can pull that link up for your we're fixing to launch that trailer that I sent you. That's kind of one of the splashes for it, because we've not really talked a lot about what we're working on. And documentaries is the direction we're heading into, because it's easier to do a documentary than it is to assemble a cast, right? And that's a lengthy process. So we've started working on documentaries, so we'll start to kick out more and more of those.
Yeah, we joked about this earlier, but I'll volunteer to be a cast. You don't got to search for a cast. I pretty much will work for free just to say I was in a movie. Not pretty much work for free. I'll go ahead and here tell you, I will work for free.
Public record. Yeah, you're working for free.
It's on public record. I want to ask a question. It may not be a question you can answer or feel or have the liberty to answer. And if it is, just say it's none of your business. And that's fine. What's the cost of one of these?
A film?
Yeah.
It depends. I hate to give that vague answer, but it just depends on what we have.
But
know what I mean?
But surely thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
You're not.
Sure.
We're $500, are you?
No, we're praying. So the smallest film we ever did was As with Roses. The second smallest was The Red Herring. That was the one that just came out, and that was like $3,000. And we did that as for as small a budget as humanly possible, for the sole purpose of trying to, not for the sole purpose. That's not the right way to say that. But we wanted to make another film that would help push for larger funds for the Over Mountain Men 3. And so that's what we did. So we intentionally produced that with almost as little to no money as possible. That was about $3,000. We are praying for a much larger budget, still the same for the Kings Mountain movie, the third Over Mountain Men. The hope there, the goal and the hope there is to reach as large an audience as humanly possible. Of course, there's visions that come along that what we could be, what we could do, but we're hoping to make this a pretty massive push for what will become the rest of Shiloh Films' life.
Now y'all wasn't there a time for one of these films? Isn't there a Christian Film Awards type thing that y'all were nominated for or received an award at? What was that?
Yeah, we received the nominations. Pretty much, we were one of the nominees. We didn't win the competition, but we were nominated to win. That was for The Red Herring.
Okay.
So,
and they do that yearly? Is that a yearly kind of awards thing that they do?
Yeah, they're all over. We never really put it into any film competitions. I'm not a huge fan of them, but it was kind of an honor to be at least nominated. That was kind of neat. So ultimately, the thing is, when we went to that award show, we didn't win, but ours was based most on scripture. And this might sound like the bitter rantings of a loser, but I assure you, my general takeaway is the winners there's nothing scriptural in the winners. They're a lot like that video you shared on the first time we did this, the Us promotion. It was like, I don't know, there was just no there's zero scripture in it. And they said at the award show, we picked the winners based on scripture. And our film was completely based on Proverbs. I was like, this is an allegory based on Proverbs in your life. So okay, whatever. I mean, it's fine. We don't have to win. Even if we won, what would that do? It'd probably boost our ego, and that's it.
I detect a hint of bitterness in the yeah, but you think if they were going to base it on scripture. And by the way, these movies, and I've watched them. I want to say I've watched every one of them except The Red Herring. For some reason, I've not seen that one. But they are scriptural and they're historical. They're historically scriptural. And that's something that I really think that people to say all the time, I hear people say this, they don't like history. They're lying.
Yeah.
Because here's what they'll say, and they love the history that they know. In other words, how many times have you heard a Baptist say this? Well, we've never done it that way. Or they'll say, we've always done it that way. And what they've just done is appealed to history. Mm-hmm. But they've appealed to the history of their what they know. Mm-hmm. And they're uncomfortable with learning, because there are things in history, quite honestly, that can be unsettling and uncomfortable at times when you see what's taking place. But history is what history is. And I love the idea of taking scriptural truth and history and looking what our Baptist ancestors, with all their faults and flaws and differences, looking at what they accomplished and they achieved and how that benefits us today. And it seems like, especially the Over Mountain Men, some of these about religious liberty get to the heart of that. Is that not what those series is about?
Yeah, essentially that's what they're about. People will say they don't care for history in the same, or it's boring or whatever, but then they'll dedicate hours of their day focusing on history or whatever, not relevant to anything faith related. Right? We'll go on Netflix and we'll binge, is what we call it.
Yeah, they'll binge for hours. World War II documentaries and American Revolution documentaries, but and what's crazy about that is like a lot of the our American Revolution was based on kind of what the Over Mountain Men is. It was entirely, and this is my bold statement, and someone might correct me later, but from my research, it was totally religious war. Yeah.
It's the only thing that chalks it up. How does something like that happen? Just, you got 30 years between the Great Awakening goes to Sandy Creek, 1750s, 60s, and this explosion happens. Especially when you look at the founding fathers. Well, who shaped their minds? Who shaped the minds of the founding fathers? That's in history too. But how come we don't know these men? So what we end up doing politically in our day is we're looking for the next political leader to carry us out of bondage. When you look at history, it's our duty to do such things. And so that's the importance of knowing not just the little stories in history, but knowing the whole entirety of what happened, so that we can conduct ourselves in a similar manner. We might have a similar outcome.
Hey, so let me ask you about a few stories. Now, all of these are not in your movies, but so here's some of the great stories. Now, I can't repeat these verbatim, but there's a story about John Gannot baptizing George Washington. Now, there's some that challenges that story, but it seems to be pretty valid. Then you got the story of, for instance, like John Leland, right? And what took place there, and really that's part of the reasons we have the not the Constitution, but the
Bill of Rights.
The Bill of Rights. Thank you.
Right.
You got that. And really it was I'm not trying to discount the value of other non-Baptist, people that have contributed, but what people don't realize is there's a great debt of religious liberty in America that needs to be credited to Baptist people.
I heard somewhere, I don't know if there was any truth to this, but I'd read where I think it was Thomas Jefferson, the shaping of the way America was to be governed was because of what he saw in a Baptist church.
Yeah, I've heard that story about he was visiting somebody, his grandmother's church, and he saw the simple government in that church. Now, I don't know if that's ever been verified, but I've read that story several times. Have you heard? I'm sure you've heard that.
He's witnessed. I've heard the story like you, and it's like the way they conducted themselves was the purest form of government that there was. The other thing you think about this is when you study the life of someone like Patrick Henry, who was essentially among the historical patriarchs that America clings to. Patrick Henry was a phenomenal man. He called him the Lion of Liberty, right? He was the mouthpiece that emboldened men like Washington and Adams to stand up. That was Patrick Henry's gift, was to a great orator. But where did he get his views? Well, he grew up in Virginia, and when you look at a man like Weatherford, if you're familiar with the story of John Weatherford, or really any of the Virginia Baptists and their suffrage, they suffered greatly. Weatherford, he suffered greatly, and Patrick Henry pays for Weatherford's fines to get out of prison. So who's affecting Patrick Henry? Who's affecting Washington is Patrick Henry. Who's affecting Patrick Henry is our forefathers, as the Baptist people. You're the ones, we are the ones, you and I are the ones that are going to affect the political climate. And it begins with allowing the scriptures to take place in our lives and give ourselves completely wholly over to live righteously and act courageously.
You mentioned Patrick Henry. I read an article. These chairs are squeaking bad. Yeah. I read an article the other day. It was in D.B. Ray's book, as a matter of fact, the one that we're giving away. He was, of course, a lawyer, but he went to defend some Baptist in court. I want to say I may be mistaken. I have to go back and look. John might remember, but it's one of those stories that some question the validity of it. He went into court as a transcript of it, actually in D.B. Ray's book, where I think he's defending, maybe it's John Clark, and there was three of them guys.
The Craig brothers.
That's who it was.
The Craig brothers.
Yeah, so he goes in and defends them for preaching, and D.B. Ray's got the account in his book. You can go read it, and it's pretty amazing to see him go in and how he's arguing for these men that are. So yeah, Patrick Henry had a great, part of that as well. But all throughout it, if you look back and you begin to read and study it, one of the reasons that it appears to me that Baptists were so influential in defending and fighting for religious freedom because they were the suffering group.
Yeah.
In the colonies. People think America's always had religious freedom, but that's not the case. The colonies had, many of them, established state churches, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Boston, this is the story where Obadiah gets beat, and I know John can tell it better than I can. I forget the details, but John Crandall, I think was the names, John Clark and Obadiah Holmes go up to preach, to hold a service in a house. That's the three guys' names. Does that sound right, John?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, they're arrested. They're taken. Two of them's fines gets paid. Well, somebody tries to pay all three of their fines, but Obadiah Holmes refuses having his paid. So he goes out and he's beaten. And then when and they say the beating was so bad he couldn't lay on his back for, I don't remember how long it said the accounts were that he couldn't lay.
Something like 6 months, I think. I don't quote me.
A long time. But then after he was beaten, he said, "You have beaten me as with roses." So, and there's story after story, Baptists that are imprisoned and they're preaching through the jail cell windows to the crowds that gather outside. Who is the one that does that? Do you remember the name of that? Is that Weatherford?
There's a lot of them. Weatherford was the one notoriously, his hands being cut, right? The notable scars on his hands at his funeral.
Yeah.
So that was Weatherford. He's the one that Patrick Henry paid his fines to be free. So you see a lot of that intertwining. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and most of these stories, or a lot of these stories, are in America and Crimson. What's the name of that book?
American Crimson Red.
Yeah.
It's a phenomenal book. I was just reading it the other day again. It's one of those things that it's when you start to look at, Baptists today is like a box of popsicles. You just pick a flavor anymore, and it's sad, but it's true. But when you start to look at these men through history, and you start to dissect, why they acted the way they acted, you start to get down to deeper questions like doctrinal questions. But then also these acts of courage, tyranny can't stand up to courage. Tyranny loses that courage, so it has to kill courage. And so you're seeing men like Obadiah Holmes not just being whipped, right? So the story doesn't just stop there, but that turns into John Clark's Ill News from New England, and then leads to the liberation of Rhode Island, which is the first true American state of any kind. Not only are Baptist people allowed to worship freely there is no state religion. So you start to have, you'll have, there's like Quakers are there. The Jews are there. I was just there this last spring. And there's a whole ton of different religious beliefs. And that tells you something, right? That tells you something. That's the way these people conducted themselves. How do we have this nation today? Well, it starts there in Rhode Island. That's the ground floor for what the country would become. And you'll see that everywhere. Shubal Stern, same thing with, and I don't remember where I read this, so I could be wrong. So just research it for yourselves. But Shubal Stern's the movement at Sandy Creek was so large that he was given the opportunity to turn the Baptist faith into the state religion of North Carolina, and he turned it down. There was no place for something like that. A state religion is ridiculous.
So after Obadiah Holmes is beaten, John Clark writes, did I hear you say he writes that Ill News from New England?
Right.
Now, didn't John Clark help with Roger Williams obtain the charter for the colony of Rhode Island?
Yeah, that was the result of their efforts from the whipping of Obadiah Holmes.
Right. And so they do that. So I've read somewhere that Rhode Island, maybe this was incorrect, but I know I read it, was really the first place where you have it enshrined religious freedom in the way that they did that. And that's Baptist peoples that did that. But Rhode Island today is they're not deeply seated religious anymore, are they, for the truth?
No, it's pretty woke, if that's the best way I can put that. It's way different than what it once was. But that's what we're working on right now is a 6-part docu-series on the origins of America. And we're going for the first thing we teach is the Pilgrims didn't give us liberty. Now, they were seeking religious liberty, yes. And they were not a part of the established church, yes. But you'd have to, if you're going to say they sought religious liberty, then you'd have to explain their banishing of John Cook was one of a 14-year-old. I think he was 14 years old when he came over. They banished him for having eventually what would become, he would come to the Baptist faith, the Baptist religion. They banned him. So religious liberty doesn't belong to them. That's what we highlight, and we're going to show people exactly where that religious liberty came from, and that's, we're excited. We're getting close to the end of that. So,
yeah, there's a set of films I watched. I can't remember the name of this group, but they were really popular, and they go back and talk about the foundation of America and the founding fathers and how they were Christians, but they leave out any reference to Baptist. You know, the who's the TV superstar?
Was it Kirk Cameron?
Well, he had a part in it, but I forget the name of this organization.
Way of the Master?
No.
No.
I'll find it. But anyway, their films talk about religious freedom, blah, 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 blah. But they leave out any reference to Baptists. They just talk about Christian people, you know, and it's got that crazy view that he's talking about that is really upside down. It doesn't tell the truth of the story, but that's the story everybody gets. It's just a generic Christians came over here, whatever, you know.
You know, we wrestle not against flesh and blood. Why are these histories obviously, and it's in your face. You're like, why are these guys mentioned? I just watched another, like a 1940s documentary on the origin of North Carolina, and Baptists are nowhere mentioned in that. Every other religion is. But how come not Baptists? Like, what's up with this? What? It doesn't make sense. You got to put pieces together and you go, if this was either A, I got it wrong, or B, someone's not allowing this to go through. And I don't know if it's intentional or if it's, well, it's a warfare beyond what we can see, right?
So here's an example of what you're talking about. I saw a discussion on this the other day. We done run John off. We pulled Jesse Lee Peterson on him.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I love Jesse Lee Peterson, by the way.
Yeah, he will make his guests leave. But the question was like, so this kind of goes to that point. If anybody ever uses the Lord's name or a God's name in vain, which one is it? They're never cursing Allah or Buddha or Krishna or whatever. It's always the Lord's name. Mm-hmm. Well, why is that? You ever thought about why that is?
Right.
It's the same thing with, like, you talk about leaving certain things out or emphasizing something, even with history. I don't know these people are purposefully, I don't know their motives, if they're purposefully trying to negate this part of history or they're trying to be inclusive, and then it's like leaving the name off the sign of a church. All right. Why are you doing that? So why are you leaving these aspects of history out? Is it not to offend, or is there some nefarious purpose behind it? I don't really know. I just know that they do.
Mm. Yeah, it is interesting because it's like I said, I just watched that thing and Baptists are completely left off. And like you said, I don't believe it. I think it's spiritual. I really do. I can't put my finger on it, nor do I want to, claim one person is literally I could say one spirit is sabotaging, but are they actively trying to sabotage history? Well, I don't think any one person is, but it is. I can say this on the opposite end of that is it's our duty to not let that happen, and it's our responsibility. That's God's promise, right? That's God's power. That's God's heritage. That we're gonna continue to push, and we're gonna continue to teach and proclaim as much as humanly possible.
Okay, the guy's name, I don't know the exact name of the group, but this is the guy's name that's behind this American Christian history, David Barton.
David Barton, yeah.
Yeah.
His series, if I remember right, and it's been a while since I watched them, but they don't mention too much about Baptist, or it's just a very general. That's the group I was talking about. I'm not sure what the name of the group is, but it's David Barton.
Yeah, I don't know much about David Barton. I remember James Beller would talk about him a lot, and he didn't like him.
Yeah,
I remember that. So, but actively, you have, like, even when Shubal Stern's day, you got guys like Charles Woodmason, who's another guy he's actively trying to corrupt the testimony of Sandy Creek. Like, he's actively, like, you can go read Charles Woodmason, what he said about the Baptists. He absolutely hated them. But for, like, what reason? Well, it's because he had the secular belief was Anglican ministry, and they were having success, and Anglican churches were suffering in the South. Presbyterians were suffering. Every other denomination was suffering in the South except for Baptists. That's because people were going to North Carolina. They called it, it was like the second Rhode Island, right? So because of the charter, people went to Rhode Island to have that liberty where they could just worship according to the conscience of their heart. And so what Boston called Rhode Island was the sink. It was the sink of the nation where all the refuse goes. And so the same thing's happening in North Carolina. It's nobody's there. It's still highly underdeveloped. And then Sandy Creek comes along, and at the same time, you're having this flood of people coming in and this explosion. And when I say that it's the fruit of it is greater than the Great Awakening, the Great Awakening is nothing. I'm not saying it wasn't anything, but it's nothing compared to the fruit that came out of Sandy Creek. But yeah, even actively, then you have Charles Woodmason trying to discredit those men actively.
You talk about the Carolinas. Rick probably knows this. Like, I forget the name. There was a church that came from Wales. A whole church lettered off a group of people from their church, had a minister. They came here and organized either Welch Neck or Welch Track. I forget which one it was, but it was up around Pennsylvania, up in that area. So a group out of that church left and came down to the PD River area. Is that South Carolina or North Carolina? I can't remember, but it's in that area. They organized either the Welch Neck or Welch Track. I get them confused. Well, out of that church came the guy to Mississippi that organized the first church in Mississippi. So you can walk that thing back through the Carolinas back to a church that came here from Wales. And if you understand the history of Wales, Paul had some people that went to Wales, Claudia and Pudence. So you've got a succession going all the way back from Mississippi to Carolina to the church that come from Wales, back to Wales, Claudia and Pudence that came minister there. So you have, and it's crazy even today that I'm going to say the majority, I think that's an accurate assessment of Baptist or Baptistic people today do not even, they believe that they're products of the 15th, 16th century Reformation. And that blows my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. You're getting a lot of today. A friend of mine sent me an article about I don't know the right word to use, but people want to know the truth. And I think we're coming to an era of truth seeking. And I really believe that. I think when you look at and you study something like the Great Awakening, people were kind of fed up with the Anglican established way of thinking. Let's just call it that instead of church. The way of thinking of Anglicanism, society as a whole was like, this isn't real. Your ministers are acting ungodly. If this is truth, I don't want anything to do with it. And so you're seeing things like today, a very similar behavior. People are starting to call out this false teachings. They're calling out shallow preaching. They're calling out churches without really any grounds of doctrine. And then they're out to seek something, just like they were during the Great Awakening. They're out to seek something. So either A, the Lord's going to return, or B, we might have the makings of another huge awakening. Right now, I think in America, I think that's where we're heading.
I hope so. So here's what I like.
I'm not making a claim. I'm not being a prophet. Just for the record, I'm looking at today and applying it. Yeah, I am not a prophet, nor do I claim to be. Don't not hold this against Shiloh Films by any stretch.
John prophesied.
Yeah.
Said.
Yeah.
Hey, but here's what's great about films. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. So I like to read. Mm-hmm. A lot of people apparently don't like to read. And I'm not saying that makes me special, but people will watch a video when they won't read a book. They will watch a film when they won't read a book. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why a ministry like this is important and sometimes what a film may do is provoke a little interest in something. It may provoke an interest to pick up a book that's got the details of whatever is being recounted in the film. We got to find a way to get people re-engaged. Number one, with the scriptures. But number two, with their history. I just think that history, we had this discussion with Brother Stratton, because he's a great history guy.
Yeah.
You don't get your doctrine from history. I understand that. And people always say, well, I just need the Bible. Okay, well, if all you had was the Bible, that's sufficient. But history shows you how those doctrines were practiced, what the practice was, what they earnestly contended for, what they lived for, what they died for. And I'd hate to just trample on all that history and act like it doesn't matter when the only reason we have liberty today is because there's people that literally died that we could be sitting here doing this thing that we're doing now.
I mean, just
Yeah.
we regard baptism day as maybe just like a quote rite of passage, but there was people that died over the doctrine of baptism. A lot of people today say, "Oh, it don't matter how you're baptized." Well, there's people that died over scriptural authority in baptism, the scriptural mode of baptism, and so it's not something we need to just gloss over.
Where's the? They've got a little museum type thing, and I think it's in Georgia. That's dedicated to an historical account of some Baptists who died in a cave. I should have.
It was. It's Valdez, North Carolina. It's a museum for the Waldensians, right?
That's what it is.
So it's the cave that you can go in. I have never been there, but I love the Waldensian people. I think they're tremendous people. So I'd love to get to go there.
I think we should take a trip over there, Rick.
We should go
do a podcast in that cave.
Yes, go sit up in the cave and do a podcast.
Yeah,
that would be cool.
Valdez, Georgia. We're gonna make a trip over there and do that. I'm glad I had that idea. Or was that you?
It was me.
No, I'm gonna say it was me.
To your point though, you watch a movie with your wife or whatever, a historical film. Maybe it's a story like what we try to produce here. And my wife can't really handle stress in the movie. She can't handle the tension. If a movie's tense, what's going to happen to our hero, whatever happens at the end of the movie. And so she'll go online and she'll start to research the person and find out his outcome so she cannot be tense watching the movie. Right?
My wife does that too.
Right? We all do that to extent. Like, there's no way the story is real. So let me look up what actually happened. That's the way to do it. I always said that I don't think Shiloh Films' mission is to replace any history books. That was in my beginnings, that was my mindset. Like, people don't read, we're going to be watching videos. No, what I think now is that if we can promote reading, if we can promote people to go back and read and learn, then it's mission accomplished.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a lot of great books that's still available, and that's just, and we're trying to do that same thing. Like in our journal, we've got, and there's not very many that we have, but we've listed the ones that we know of have good resources, like Challenge Press, Bogard Press. What's the other one, Rick? The Baptist Baptist History. It's a reprint series. I have to go. It's in the newsletter. Then we got Shiloh Films.
We got the newsletter right there.
But it's not in the next edition. It's not in this one. So, So you got resources and you can get these materials. And here's the thing: people say, "I don't have time." Yes, we do. We'll binge watch Netflix, whatever.
Right.
Or sit down and watch something. It really just boils down to how to pique a person's interest in these subjects. That's the challenge, I think, with the videos, is how do you present a story that's historically accurate? So you got to do your research. You got to make sure what you're presenting is actually. Of course, there's some got to be some theatrics and some a little bit of license and filling in some of the blanks, but you're not telling anything that contradicts the account, but doing it in a way that feeds into people's imaginations about how was it like to live as a Baptist 100 years ago or a Baptist 200 years ago. We don't have any concept of what that's like. We just get up and go to church and we forget, that it was not anything remotely like it is now. You were living in a colony where you were paying taxes to pay for the ministry of whatever church it was that was there and their meeting houses, and no other forms of worship was permitted without a license. That's why Obadiah Holmes and them were in trouble. So it's a whole different world than what we live in what is now America.
Right.
Yeah.
So you should watch those films, Rick. It will help you.
Yeah. The biggest thing that we're seeing today is just with the social scrolling that people don't have attention spans really anymore. And so it's really hard to get, even with movies, we find that it's even harder to get people to, you post a video on your social platforms. Well, people are used to just scrolling. So we're constantly getting a feed. We're used to getting information like this, and it's not always useful information, but nonetheless, our brain's having to process every few seconds. So attention spans are actively getting shorter. So the battle is getting harder to get people to want to go pick up a book. So the little posts you can put out there, people really respond to quick little snippets of history, maybe get them on the right track. I know you mentioned Ben Stratton, and I think you had him on last week or the week before. I forget what it was, but the J.H. Spencer Historical Society. I've never met Ben, but I can appreciate their work and all that they're doing. I don't know how they're not making money. I'm sorry. I don't know how they're not losing money, because it's so cheap to get all the stuff, and I'm getting droves of materials every, however often they release them. Well, that's really good little ways to get the truth out there, and what you guys are doing. I appreciate what you guys are doing. This is tremendous stuff, and everybody researches together and kind of throws them at each other.
Yeah, what I want to do, and I'm gonna just be honest with you. Technically challenged is an understatement when it comes to me, and Rick is no help either. So I would love to be able to take like what we're doing, and I don't have any, like to make those small clippets like you're talking about, just a short
TikTok,
whatever. I don't know what it is.
Right? Yeah, viral videos.
We're getting Teach Baptist history while we do a TikTok.
Yeah, just
dance.
a short something. But because you're right, people will watch a 5-second.
Yeah.
Now you can dance all you want, but people will watch it because I do it. You're going through Facebook and there's the reels, okay, and you see something interesting. You got a 10-15 second reel, and even like a long format like this, you got a few people who will watch it.
I mean, it's funny. My wife will go to the reels and watch like 5 minutes of an episode of like Law and Order, and I'm like, you do know we have Peacock where you can go watch the whole episode right now.
Well, what you need to do is like what I do. When we get through with an episode, the night or two following, because I run the show at my house. Okay, I wear the pants. Me and my wife sat down because she critiques me. Right? She'll say, "Boy, you're stupid," for whatever. She'll critique me, but we'll mirror it to the TV. So we're watching the big screen, So that's why I know I would be great in movies, because I've seen myself on the big screen, and I know that I would be a shoe in for that.
You're compelled by your own performance.
Exactly. So I know it's confidence. That's what it is. You got to have confidence if you're going to be on the big screen.
I would have confidence if I didn't host this show with you.
You would have confidence if you had his hair.
That is true.
But you don't.
Yeah. So, before we started this podcast, I had a head full of beautiful hair.
Yeah, I've never seen you. I've known you for how many years?
Too long.
And I would use many words to describe you, but beautiful hair is not on the list. Okay, so we got to get back to the Shiloh Films.
Yeah.
So let's do it. Let's do a quick. We've got video number 1 was As with Roses.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You got As with Roses, and then we moved and did the Over Mountain Men. We did the Trial of Your Faith, and then we did the Price of Freedom, which is the second Over Mountain Men, and then we did the Red Herring. The next thing we're working on is A Call to New England, and that's for churches to teach and help learn. They can show in their churches. They can show whenever they want. They're about 30-40-minute episodes detailing and outlining the origins of how we got religious liberty in America, at least the first American document, and then that's going to springboard into more, but that's the documentary series we're starting with. And then we're working on the third Over Mountain Men. And if you need to know more, if you want to know more, I would say go to Shiloh Films on like Facebook or Instagram and follow. We do put out casting calls, and we do put out extras. A lot of men that I meet, they go, "Do you need more extras? We want to get out there for the battle stuff and shoot muskets." We're like, yes. Yeah, get on there, contact us, get to our email us, and when the times come, we're gonna rally the troops, as it were, and all of us will be able to take place in that. It's the thing too, is it is a group effort. We do need to rely on each other to help tell these stories. If we feel that these histories are worth telling, we need to contribute on each other's parts to make sure that we're able to do this. So it's our heritage. We tell it together.
So here's what's going to happen. They're going to have to tell me no. I'm going to make them tell me no. I'm going to enter for a casting call. So I'm going to make my brothers in Christ up in Michigan tell me no. So they may feel sorry enough for me. They put me in as an extra, just running through the woods with a musket. I can do that for sure.
We'll get you in there. If you want to be in there. I'm not going to say no. We always need people.
Yeah. So how do I officially fill out for a casting call? Is there a link somewhere on your website or what?
Well, what we'll do is when the time comes, because we got to wait for the momentum, right? When the date is set, we'll tell it several months in advance.
No, see, I'll miss the
and then
notification. I'm going to go ahead and email you now.
Yeah, do that.
This is my casting call.
And we'll file it.
And you file it in a folder somewhere so that you know that I'm going to be up there. And so if let's just say somebody may be watching this may say, hey, I want to do that. How much time would be involved with them coming up there? And by the way, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say probably a lot of this is voluntary. Y'all not paying your actors the way Hollywood movers. This is for the love of what's taking place in the ministry, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So if a person wanted to be involved with that to help with this, how long of a period would they need to be there in Michigan or wherever you're going to be filming at?
That's a good question. I'll tell you this. I hate to shirk around an answer, but at the same time, we've not really done it at scale like we're about to do. So we're planning right now in the early stages of planning. We're thinking we're going to at least need 5 days with a group of extras, and so that's the current plan. If we can get 5 days with a group of extras, and I mean a lot. I mean we're really we're pulling on every string that we can for when this battle comes in. It'd be something to have the amount of people that we want to have. But you're right, nobody makes a dollar off it. What we do is we have people come in and we do try to house people and take care of them. That is something we would do. We want to be respectful. This is something that people are taking time out of their week or their year to do. So
hey, here's a great idea. It's got to be a great idea.
If it came from you,
it's got to be. So like right now, our church is looking for something to take our church on. Now, everybody in your church is not going to fit in a movie setting, but there may be man. If your church could get on board with going up there, maybe some of them weren't participating, maybe they just wanted to watch, but you may have a number in your church that want to be extra. Well, that would be your church could say, "Hey, we were involved with this."
Mm-hmm.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I guess you'd have to know how many's coming, who could actually be participating, and because you can't just really house a bunch of people that are not participating in the actual production of it. You need that for those who are actually going to be involved with it.
Anybody that would come, we'd be like, are you willing to work? Because that's what we usually do behind the scenes. We're the more people we have on set, and it's been growing too. God's really brought a lot of people and put a lot of people in our path that are experts at what they do. And a lot of it pertains to the production industry. And so we're sort of relying, we now officially have some certain titles. And even in the past, I don't know, I would say 3-4 years, I was introduced to a fellow that actually was involved in a Civil War film and is very used to putting the battle stuff together. So it's like, God's putting these people on our paths. We're not, this is just happening. So we really do have a really solid team going into this final film. And we really, like I said before, we really want to set the pace for what is to be expected going forward. We don't want it to end with people love these movies. I mean, I'm serious. You'll find I'm the most critical person of everything that we do, but there is obviously a base of people that really love these because we're constantly getting people reaching out to us for the third Over Mountain Men, and they're passionate about what happened at the end of the second Over Mountain Men. And so, it's one of those things where we want to not only do the history justice, which I believe our story is a powerful one, and I believe that it's going to do justice to these men, but also I hope that I know that we are going to meet the expectations of viewers. I promise, I can promise that I am prophet. I'm going to be a prophet in that regard.
Well, I can tell you this too. Have you ever, Rick, picked up a video or something? Have you wondered, and because I have, I'm always looking for ways to engage people in church. These are videos you can absolutely show in your church. Okay. There's nothing in these videos that you could not show in a church setting. That's the correct statement. I know it is.
Yep. Depending on your church. If you don't like violence or whatever, it is war. They are war movies. We're not overly gruesome, but it's war.
Well, sometimes it's war in church without a movie.
Hear this.
So,
that's a statement.
Especially in Baptist.
Sometimes it's bloody.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's
and it's usually over pretty trivial things too.
Yeah, like Rick was just telling me here at his church, they just had 2 deacons knock down dragging over the color of the carpet. Was that last year or recently? Or not true at all?
Not true. Not true.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
So here's what I need you to help us with. I put on the screen, it's been scrolling the whole time, the contact at shillowfilms.org. I've also got the website, Shiloh Films. Just put contact at that in front of it and you got it. Yep. But at the end of this, if there's any links that you want to provide, like in the comments, if any links to any, I also saw on your website that you've actually have started or about to start a podcast of your own.
Correct. Yeah, that's launching with the documentary.
Is it just for that documentary, or is it going to be an ongoing podcast?
It'll be an ongoing podcast. It's called The Past Forward, and the whole hope of it is exactly what we're talking about. It's one extra measure we can do on our end to sort of promote the heritage, also promote the films is sort of the goal of it.
Yeah.
They need to know these men, right?
Oh yeah. So like at Shiloh Church right now, who are the people that I would know that are kind of involved in the Shiloh Films ministry? Is it you and your brother and some others, or who is kind of full-time engaged in this in between when you're filming?
Right. That's a pretty big question because it's a bunch of people.
I got you.
My family is the hub. I would say that my wife and my kids, we're sort of the hub. We're sort of deciding on where it's going, and then from there we'll pull in a handful of our church members. My brothers are both active in this. We have ladies in our church that are extremely gifted in things that I have no clue on, like, how to make things look pretty, how to make things look nice on a set. And so we kind of rely on everybody. We have script writers that are writers that will help us edit scripts and all that. So everybody has pretty much always been hands-on as necessary.
Right. Now, have all of your films been shot in Michigan?
Everything except for the documentary stuff that we're currently working on. That's all obviously out of state. But everything else is Michigan, right here in our own backyard. And you look at Carolinas and you look at the Upper Peninsula where we're at, God planted us here for a reason. It looks a lot like the Carolinas. So it's like, not the rolling hills. We don't get that, but you get the foliage is very, very similar.
We're going to Michigan, Rick.
Okay.
As soon as the cast,
I would encourage it.
I'm going. Matter of fact,
I would encourage it.
I'm going to shoot Brother Woody a message and say, you need to put the pressure on your film crew that we need to be in this somehow or another. So when the credits are rolling, you'll see the actor's name and you'll see Jason Howard, and I'll forever be enshrined in a full
movie
production, so I can tell my grandkids, movie star.
There you go.
And I won't be telling a story.
Right.
It'll be right there. And not only that, it'll be promoting scriptural and biblical history. So it's the whole stuff balled into one. I love it. I love everything about it. So, and I'm joking a lot. I would love to be involved in it. There's no joking about that. But all that kind of stuff aside, I'd love to see churches, reach out to you and get this information and use it. And did you say earlier the most popular film that y'all have done so far has been As with Roses, or that's been kind
As with Roses is still one of our better sellers. The Overmountain 1 and 2 are pretty popular. The second one being more popular. As far as from a sales perspective, people are most passionate about the Price of Freedom. But As with Roses still sells. We're at this point right now where I don't know how much I want to say on that, but we're at this point right now where we'll probably stop producing it. And whether that's going to go online for free, I don't know how much I want to say that because we need to sell what we have. Or it might go through a hiatus for a little while. We might put it away. I would love to ultimately retell that story with down the road. We learned so much. We were able to tell the more holistic story about John Clark and Obadiah Holmes, but Lord may not open that door for just us. Maybe it's someone else that takes that on. Either way.
That's the As with Roses film you're talking about?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It might end up going on free.
Yeah, but then sometimes you look back. How long ago was it that y'all did the Ads with Roses, the first one? How old is that video now?
So long that high definition wasn't even out.
That's what I'm saying.
High definition wasn't even a thing.
I bet you'd like to go back and just redo the whole thing. Just revamp it.
It eats me. It eats at me, especially when you start to know more. You learn more about their political play. Like these guys going to Lynn is a pretty bold political move in their world. It's not like, oh, whoops, Boston came. Whoops, we're in chains. There's no way that was actually a thing. What actually happened is this is a political play. And Obadiah Holmes said he denied everything, the payment for his imprisonment, his bonds. It's a political move. And you look at guys like Henry Dunster, who was affected by that. We will already tell Obadiah Holmes' story. It's going to be included in this next series that we're doing on our website. So,
Rick, you got any other questions for John before we cut him loose?
No, I don't.
I don't think we had any glitches in this video. We actually
Everything went pretty good.
we actually packed up everything and drove
moved.
30 minutes and moved location.
Yeah.
So here's the problem we're at. Where I live, we have HughesNet internet and it's horrible, but we're getting fiber run. So until then, I can't do anything at my house as far as this goes. And we did do one from your church. It worked pretty good. Most of them been here at the college, but not the
college.
At the missions office. But was it 2 weeks ago that we did one that glitched real bad? Or anyway, we done one here and it glitched. So
It was last week's.
Yeah, we don't know it sometimes until it's over and done with that we're having these problems. And so, but we're back here today and everything seems to be going good. So people think it's easy to pick up a camera and film something, but you got all kind of stuff you're trying to figure out and work with to make it work right.
Everything can. Murphy's Law, right? That's exactly right. And I appreciate you guys giving me the second round on that second opportunity to be able to actually give you the full story.
Well, most of it was your face was still, and we heard words behind it. And I'm thinking, John does not want people to see a still photo of his face with his mouth open.
It was probably not flattering either.
It was not.
So let me remind everybody, we have right now, you can go to shillowfilms.org. If you want to contact John, you can just add contact in front of that. Contact at shillowfilms.org. If you want to get any more information about these videos, you can do that. Before we cut you loose, John, is there anything else you want to add that we didn't cover, information that you think people would like to have? Clean up any mess that we've made, just whatever's on your heart or mind before we cut you loose.
I would say if anyone's listening, I would say the best way to support this ministry, again, nobody makes a dime or a dollar on it, is to go and purchase the films. We're actively adding more. We're hoping to add more things like shirts and mugs and all sorts of different things that are launching with our new series. Pre-orders for that new series are coming. The podcast is coming. All sorts of different things that we're about to launch. And from that point forward, we'll be constantly launching stuff. So that's the way to support it and build those funds for us to continually to make these. If you don't buy, we can't make. That's just kind of, we'll try to make, but it's just not the same.
Hey, let me ask you this, and it may not, I'm sure it'll be okay for me to ask it. Like you said, most of your funds to produce the films is raised through the selling the films that you make. But what if a church hears this and they got a little money they want to put toward a ministry? Would y'all accept donations in that regard? Or is that just okay?
Yeah,
great.
Yeah, I would say if anybody wants to donate, we would welcome that. We are currently still trying to raise. We have a specific budget in mind for the Third Over Mountain Men, and we'll take all the donations that we could get. And again, it's not like we're taking this and throwing it into our own accounts. It goes right into the film bank account, and we put it towards the project. So that all is extremely helpful. How they would do that, I would say it's going to be through Shiloh, through our church. You'll send a church, put in the memo Shiloh Films, and that's how we would get that.
Yeah. So if you're interested in doing that, if you don't remember that, just contact him at contact@shillowfilms.org.
There you go.
Find out. Always keep going back to that. Man, it was one other thing I wanted to say, and I've totally forgotten what it was. And I'll remember it when we get off of here. But
well, that happens when you get old.
You may be old. So I'm in my prime. I don't know what your problem is. But let me see. What was it? Anyway, we've got the contact information. We've got all of that. So, yep, I appreciate you.
Yeah.
We right at an hour, so we've actually taken up now 2 hours of your time because the first hour it's take two. This
Happy
is
to do it.
But
No, happy. I appreciate you guys inviting me on.
All right. Well, if we can help in any kind of way, just you know how to get a hold of us.
Will do. Absolutely.
Take care, John.
All right.
Perfect.
All right.
So we got through at that time.
Had good internet.
Thank God for good internet.
Yep.
I'm interested in the next movies. I think, Rick,
You're just interested because you think you've got a shot of being in it.
I'm going to be in the movie.
Uh-huh.
Okay. I'm not going to say I'm going to have a leading role, but I promise you, when they start casting that 5 days, I'm going to be up there. If I got to move stuff around the set, I'm going to do something.
You're going to do something.
So,
as long as your name's in the credit.
But what I'll do is, like, they may have a shot where they've got some extras.
Uh-huh.
And let's say that for whatever reason, you know, they make a poor judgment and don't put me in the movie,
right,
even as an extra. I'll slip in behind a tree somewhere, and they won't know it. And when they run by, I'll just jump in with the crowd and I'll run along and they'll see
there
me.
you go.
But yep. All right, Shiloh Films. Contact John Camerad, and he can hook you up on everything that you need to know about how to get in touch with them. All right. I don't know what we got next week yet.
I don't either.
We may just have to do some reaction to the videos that we've done at the first one. And I want to look, there's one I want to look back on, because in Brother Joey's book that we're going to give away, this book is Christianity, the Only Way to God. He's got his quotes that in here. He's got the transcript of that in here.
Of that video, one video we watched?
Yeah, Billy Graham. And
okay.
So we're going to probably watch that and talk about that, and maybe do a little research and find out at what point in his ministry was that comment made, so we'll have that information. But nonetheless, before we get off here, let me just remind everybody, our Jude 3 newsletter. These are really nice. They're printed nice. They've got a lot of good information in it. The first one's already went out, but we can still send you a copy of the first one. Just give us your email. In this particular one, it's got an article about the Whitsitt controversy. It's got an article that Rick wrote about the local church. It's got an article about baptism in it. And the second one is ready to go. It'll go out the 1st of March. All the emails that we have, we'll send it out. I print these paper copies for where I pastor. Rick gets them for where he pastors. We got one of the church that gets 35 copies. If you want paper copies for your church, we can work that out. It doesn't cost much to print these, and we wouldn't charge anything over than what the cost of it is, which is very little. But one more thing, and then we'll go. We're going to give a set of books away. We did mention this at the beginning, but we'll mention it again now. Brother Joey, give us some books. Identifying Marks of a New Testament Church. That's one in the set. The other in the set is co-authored Les Potter, Matt Woody, Baptist Baptism, Scriptural Authority versus Popular Practice.
Right, put that back up there like that. All right, now just stay like that.
Oh, cover my face up with it. Then we've got the other book by Brother Joey is Christianity, the Only Way to God. And then we, of course, got D.B. Ray's Baptist Succession, a handbook of Baptist history. And then I'm also going to throw the book in that I wrote, Ecclesiastical Wolves. So that'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books we're going to give away next Tuesday.
5 books.
5 books. Now, here's how you get these 5 books. You have to share this video, not anything else. You share this video, and then just type in the comments, shared, and then we'll enter you a drawing. And we got to get up with the lady that won this book from Saturday's show with Josh Daniels.
And if you don't comment shared, we won't know if you shared it. So that's important.
All right. Brother Rick, is there anything else you want to say before we close out here?
I've got nothing.
All right. We will see you in just a minute. We're out.